Welcome to our channel. Today, we're back with a brand new topic just for you. Before we start the podcast, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. Enjoy the show.
Think about the websites you use like every single day. Now try to picture them with no color, no layout, just walls of plain text.
Yeah, pretty stark, right?
Exactly. That huge jump, from just raw data to these really engaging visual things we see online.
Yeah.
A massive part of that is what we're digging into today. Our mission really is to get to grips with how cascading style sheet CSS takes that basic web structure and just, makes it come alive.
That's it. And we've been looking at some key ideas from mastering cascading style sheets, part of Code Talk.
Right.
Think of this as like your fast track to understanding something that's truly fundamental to the web as we know it.
So whether you're just kind of curious about how websites work under the hood, or maybe you're actually building them.
Yeah, this is a really crucial piece of the whole puzzle. We're going deep on this one.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning then. Our source material, it points back to 1994, a proposal by Håkon William Lai. What was the big problem he saw? What led to CSS?
Well, the fascinating thing was the core idea, separating the content, the stuff written in HTML, from how it actually looks.
Oh, okay.
Because back then, in the early web days, styling instructions were often just mixed right into the HTML code itself.
Which sounds messy.
Oh, incredibly messy.
Yeah.
And really hard to manage, especially as websites got bigger. So Lai's proposal was, honestly, a breakthrough. He imagined this dedicated language just for controlling the look and feel.
So it wasn't just about making things pretty.
Not at all. It was a fundamental shift in thinking about web development, a much cleaner approach.
Right. So beyond just, tidying things up, this separation gave developers way more focused control over the visuals, making things more efficient.
Absolutely. I mean, just imagine trying to change the main heading font on a website with, say, 500 pages, if that font info was stuck in every single HTML file. It's a total nightmare. With CSS, you change it in one style sheet. Done. That's a huge leap forward in efficiency. And it's important to remember, like our source says, CSS isn't frozen in time. It keeps evolving. New features get added constantly.
Okay, right. So boiling it down, what is CSS? What does it actually do?
Okay, at its heart, CSS is what we call a style sheet language. Basically, it's a set of instructions for web browsers.
Instructions for what?
For how to display HTML documents.
Right.
The material we're drawing from sums it up nicely. CSS controls colors, fonts, all the spacing between things, where elements sit on the page, even those little animations you sometimes see, and really importantly, how a site adjusts itself for different screen sizes, responsiveness.
And how does it know which part of the page to make, say, blue, or which text to make bigger?
That's where rules and selectors come in.
Yeah.
CSS applies these style rules to specific HTML elements.
Okay.
And it uses selectors to identify which elements get those styles. Selectors can pick out elements based on their type, like all the paragraphs P or all the images MG. Or you can get more specific using special labels you add to your HTML, called classes or IDs, to target very particular bits of the page.
So it's like pointing and saying, okay, all these things should be bold and green, or just this specific box needs a border.
Exactly like that. And the cascading bit in the name is also super important.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
It refers to how different style rules can kind of interact. Sometimes they overlap. Sometimes one rule overrides another.
Hey, how does the browser decide?
It uses a sort of priority system.
Yeah.
It looks at how specific a rule is. A rule targeting a unique ID is more specific than one targeting all paragraphs, for example. And it also looks at the order the rules appear in the style sheet.
Okay.
Think of it like layers of instructions. A really precise instruction usually wins out over a more general one.
Got it. That clarifies the cascading part a lot. Okay, so we know sort of what it is and how it works. Why is it so critical? Why is it, indispensable now?
Well, if you step back, its impact is just huge. Our source really highlights several key reasons. First, that separation we talked about, content versus style.
Yeah.
That leads to much cleaner, more meaningful HTML. The HTML focuses on structure. What is this content? A heading, a list, while the CSS handles how it looks.
Which makes things easier to manage down the line.
Much easier. Easier to update, easier to maintain, even easier for search engines like Google to understand what your page is about.
And it's not just about code neatness, right? It must unlock a lot of creative potential for designers.
Oh, absolutely. The level of design flexibility CSS gives you is amazing. You can tweak tiny details of typography or build really complex, sophisticated page layouts using things like CSS Grid.
Which lets designers get really creative.
Totally. And then, of course, there's responsive design.
Which we just expect now, don't we? Using phones, tablets, massive monitors, we expect sites to just work.
Exactly. And CSS media queries are the magic behind that. They let the website apply different styles depending on the device viewing it.
So it looks good everywhere.
Ensures a good, usable experience everywhere. Plus, from a technical standpoint, CSS is built to be efficient. Style sheets load fast, which helps the whole website feel quicker.
Better user experience.
Definitely. And the fact that all modern browsers support CSS standards really well is a massive plus for developers. Less cross-browser weirdness to deal with, usually.
It's kind of invisible workhorse technology for the average user, but it's shaping everything they see online. So where do we bump into CSS day to day?
Literally everywhere online. Any website you visited today, CSS is styling basically every visual part of it.
Buttons, text, layouts.
Yep. Buttons, how text looks, how content is arranged. It's the absolute foundation of mobile-friendly, responsive websites. It also drives a lot of the subtle animations and transitions that make sites feel a bit more alive.
Without needing heavier stuff like JavaScript for basic effects.
Exactly. For those simpler visual interactions, CSS often handles it.
Our source also mentioned things like Bootstrap and Tailwind, UI frameworks. How do they fit in?
Yeah, that's interesting. Frameworks like those are essentially big collections of pre-written CSS rules and components.
Like building blocks.
Precisely. Developers can use them to style sites and apps quickly and consistently. They provide a ready-made visual system, which saves a ton of time. Even things you might not think about, like nicely formatted email templates or the look of web applications. CSS is doing the heavy lifting visually there, too.
It sounds almost perfect. But are there downsides? Any challenges developers face with CSS?
Yeah, it's good to have that balanced view. The source does point out a few things. For one, on really big, complex websites, managing the CSS can get tricky if it's not well organized from the start. Large style sheets can become hard to navigate and maintain.
I can imagine, like a huge tangled ball of rules.
It can feel that way sometimes. Also, while browser support is generally great now, you still occasionally run into small inconsistencies. A specific CSS feature might behave slightly differently in Firefox versus Chrome versus Safari.
Requiring workarounds?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Little tweaks to make sure it looks right everywhere.
And I guess getting good at the really advanced stuff takes time.
For sure. Things like Flexbox and CSS Grid, which are incredibly powerful for layout, they definitely have a learning curve. You need to invest time to really master them.
Right.
And it's crucial to remember CSS is mainly declarative. It describes what the end result should look like. It doesn't have complex programming logic like JavaScript.
So for complicated interactions, you still need JavaScript.
Typically, yes. You use them together. CSS for the looks and layout, JavaScript for the complex behavior.
Okay. So what's next for CSS? It sounds pretty powerful already. Is it still evolving much?
Oh, definitely. The evolution is ongoing, and it's pretty exciting stuff. Our source mentions things like CSS variables, sometimes called custom properties.
What do?
They make styles much more dynamic and easier to manage, letting you define values in one place and reuse them throughout your style sheet. Really handy.
Okay.
And CSS Grid continues to get refinements, offering even more layout power. Then there are the Houdini APIs.
Houdini sounds mysterious.
Yeah. They're a bit more advanced, but basically they give developers lower-level access to the browser's styling and layout engine.
Opening up new possibilities.
Exactly. Potentially allowing for completely new kinds of visual effects and custom layout behaviors that weren't easily possible before. The main point is, CSS is still very much alive and kicking and absolutely vital for modern web experiences, making them immersive, responsive, and fast.
So who should really think about learning CSS then? Is it just for the pros?
No, not at all. As the source points out, obviously if you're a web designer or a developer building sites, it's essential, a must-have.
Right.
Front-end developers crafting user interfaces, indispensable skill. But even if you just want to make your personal blog or website look better,
learning some CSS gives you that power.
it gives you direct control over the visuals.
I mean,
and honestly, for anyone starting out with coding, learning CSS alongside HTML is a fantastic entry point. It gives you a very visual, tangible understanding of how web pages are put together.
Okay, so summing up, it really feels like CSS is this often unnoticed engine that shapes our whole online world. It takes the web's skeleton and not only makes it look good, but makes it work properly on all the different devices we use.
That's a great way to think about it. It's where the technical structure meets the visual creativity. It transforms that raw HTML into something engaging and usable. So next time you're browsing, maybe just take a second to notice the layout, the fonts, the colors. Chances are there's some well-written CSS working hard behind the scenes. And like Kotak explores, it's part of that bigger picture, working hand in hand with HTML, JavaScript, and all those frameworks.
Absolutely. So yeah, next time you land on a really slick, beautifully designed website, just remember the quiet power of CSS doing its job. It's way more than just decoration. It's fundamentally crafting that digital experience you're having.